Morning, guys. So I just wanted to review a couple things with you as testing is literally starting Monday of next week. So remember, you need to be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, May 10th, 11th, and 12th. You should be here during when your scheduled class time is. So if you are in my first block, you should be here during the first block time. And if you are in my third block, you should be here during that time frame. And I have posted those in Google Classroom. It was an announcement a day or two ago. I want to say it was yesterday. Don't quote me on that. My days are running together. But I just wanted to go over how the test would look and maybe some general strategies you might want to think about using. In class, that's what we've been doing all week. We've been practicing, we've been using testing strategies, we've been discussing. But I just wanted to go over a couple with you guys because I know that that's not as reasonable for you guys online because there's just not enough time, and I try to give you guys a little extra time to finish things since you are typically doing things independently. So the first thing is there are two types of structures to the test. So there's like an option A and an option B. We're hoping for option B, but of course we need to be prepared if there's an option A as well. So option A is the test will have 3 sessions, just like either part will have. The first session would be a literary analysis session, which is going to ask you to read several passages, and answer some multiple choice or drag and drop or any type of questions like that, and then write a literary analysis style essay, which just looks like a normal essay. But of course is written about literature, about fictional works of literature. The second session, if your first session is a literary analysis, will be a research simulation task. And you will have a research simulation task regardless of what form of the test you take, but it depends on what day you have it. The third session will be a complete multiple choice session. It's reading informational and literary literacy skills. That second session, if you have a research simulation task, you will also be asked to write like a normal style essay. They'll give you some reading to do. You'll answer some multiple choice, drag and drop, whatnot, and then you'll also be asked to write that essay based on the prompt given. Again, there's no writing on the third session. It is only multiple choice. The first session, regardless of what type of test, what form of the test you get, will be 90 minutes. The second session will also be 90 minutes, and the third session will be 80 minutes. If you're looking at the second format of the test, sorry guys, the first session will be, if you have that form of the test, will be a research simulation task. So it's either going to be a session 1 or a session 2, depending on the form of the test you get. And of course that will ask you again to read some text, answer some multiple choice, and write a normal like essay, structured essay with an intro, body, paragraphs, plural, multiple paragraphs, people, and some kind of conclusion. Your second session, if that's the case, will be a narrative style writing as well as reading with multiple choice. Your literary analysis and your narrative style will be pretty much the same. The text will be pretty much the same, and the question styles will be the same, but what you're asked to do for the writing activity will be different. That's where the kind of sessions differ, as well as when you take them. So if you have a research simulation task first, you will have a narrative style writing on the second day for session 2, and of course session 3 will be the same as the format of the first session. So it'll be some kind of literacy and informational text reading. So again, it'll be 90, 90, 80, 90 minutes, 90 minutes, and 80 minutes. And that will be regardless of what type of text they end up giving you. It will always be 90, 90, 80. Please keep in mind, guys, that the grade for this is 15% of your final grade, and you do need to pass the LEAP test in order to graduate from high school. You guys didn't get credit for English 1 even if you took the state test last year. They waived all testing scores from last year. So you do actually have to pass this one in order to graduate. So please keep that in mind as you are preparing for this test and getting ready to take it on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. So, I'm going to post a sample of a research simulation task. If you'd like to practice, you're welcome to do so. You don't have to, and I'll make sure that the answers are available as well so you can check yourself. And I'll also explain how they got certain answers. But I just wanted to go over a couple of questions and kind of talk about how to approach the questions and maybe some techniques to use as you're thinking about taking your test. So the first thing I always suggest students do is go look and annotate the questions. Know what's being asked of you before you even look at the passage. That way when you're reading, you have a purpose. You know exactly what you're looking for, and sometimes you even know exactly where to look for that thing. So for this first passage on the session, possibly session 1, research simulation task thing that I'm going to be posting for you, it says, what is the meaning of the word prolific as it is used in paragraph 9 of putting a good face on street art to upgrade Atlanta? So the first thing I would think about, okay, so it wants me to define this particular word, so I need to understand that I'm looking about this word, I'm looking at vocabulary, and I know that it's probably going to be based on context clues. So I need to be looking at context clues when I start seeing this word prolific. And I know that I'm going to see it in paragraph 9. And as I start looking at the text, I know I need to look for that particular word. Sorry. Sorry, guys. And if I start looking at my part B for this, because this one does have a part B, what detail from paragraph 9 best supports the answer to part A? So as I'm looking through, I'm going to look at paragraph 9 as I'm reading through, because I will still read the entire text. I will still annotate as I go, because remember, you should annotate as you go, not at the end. You should still annotate. Remember, you have that... you have tools available to you. You have the highlighting tool, you have the guideline tool, you have the sticky note function. You can use all those tools to help you be successful in the test. Sorry guys, my eye is bothering me today. But as I read through and try to define this word, I'm going to look for evidence that supports that as well. That way I have not only the answer to part A, but I also can potentially have the answer to part B. So as I'm starting to read through, I will look for that word in paragraph 9. I will make sure that I'm looking for clues, and to get that word and its meaning, I will look for, of course, those connotative meanings for that word and see what the best answer is based on my choices. Also, when I'm starting to look at these answer choices, there's a couple of things I do. So let's say I've read my questions, I've annotated my text, read and annotated my text, and now I'm starting to look at the multiple choice questions. So one technique you can use, guys, is look at the verbs used. Okay, so for part A, it says conducting unlawful activities, producing a large quantity, showing regret or remorse, or demanding immediate attention. So if I look at those verbs, conducting, producing, showing, or regretting, some of those I may be able to knock out right away because it's not doing that particular thing before I even read the rest of the answer choice. So I would start knocking answers out the best you can, right off the bat, because if it's a really, bad answer, it doesn't fit with what you're being asked, get rid of it. The better, the more you get rid of things, guys, the better it makes your odds about getting those questions right. And of course, that gets you to whatever your goal, your personal goal is for achievement on this particular test. Because, I'm here to help you meet your goal, of course. So if we flip over to the next set of questions, it says, what connection is made between muralist Odna Bold? I'm guessing here, guys. I'm not really sure how to speak Mongolian, sorry. And global development in Mongolia's hunt for female street artists. So I'm looking at that question. I know I'm trying to think of a connection or see what the connection is between this particular muralist and global development in this one particular text. So I'm going to start again looking through these answer choices. I can again try looking at the verbs. So is in charge, is creating, is planning, is not sure. So I can start maybe narrowing down some things that way. and then start knocking out ones that definitely don't make any sense at all, either based on the verb or the fact that the answer does not match any little bit with the text, and there are a few you can knock out. And then, of course, while I'm looking for that answer in that text, while I was annotating, I would read that question. I would look for evidence to support that answer, because that's what Part B says, what quote supports the answer to Part A. So I would, again, do that same strategy. What works, what doesn't, what really doesn't seem to fit at all. And make sure, guys, that when you're looking at Part B, you're always referring back to your answer for Part A, because if your answer doesn't match with your answer for Part B doesn't match with your answer for Part A, either your Part A is wrong, or you're thinking too much about the text and you're not thinking about the answer that you have actually chosen for that part. Part A, excuse me. So looking next at 3A. So it says, how does the author develop the idea that art can improve humanity in Mongolia's hunt for female artists? So again, this is another great opportunity to use that verb strategy. So by evaluating, by describing, by naming, by explaining, there is one you can definitely knock out right away. And then you can go back and read the more detailed answer choice and see if there's anything in there that kind of helps you narrow it down and get to that correct answer. And of course, this next one asks for 2 paragraphs that best support the answer to Part A. This is a really great opportunity to think about that word and. So if both parts of these answers, so if it's not both paragraphs that are listed, the answer is wrong, guys. So remember, if it's not both parts that are correct, the entire answer choice is wrong. So this is a really nice, helpful tool. So if part of the answer is wrong, knock it out. Immediately knock it out if part of the answer does not work. Because if part of the answer is wrong, it wouldn't have and, it would say or some other word that told you one or the other would work. But in this particular case, it tells you both. So it's an easy way to kind of knock things out and help yourself. So either if one or both of them don't work, knock it out immediately. And of course, that gets you so much closer to that right answer. 4 says, what is the central idea of Mongolia's hunt for female street artists? So again, I'm looking for the central idea. As I was annotating, I should have definitely written down what the text was about. So the central idea, or the main point that is being discussed. And of course, what evidence supports Part A. So same process. I would look for evidence. Once I was looking for the central idea, I would try to find evidence to support my idea. Question number 5, as you can see, is a chart. Question number 5 looks at techniques that the author is using. So you should always pay attention to how an author is doing something, how they're putting their text together. So whether that's looking at devices, looking at the way they've structured their text. Are they making comparisons? What kind of evidence are they using? Because of course, if you look at the beginning of the session before you even read the passages, it does say today you will read 3 texts about artists who create art for public spaces. You are, as you read, pay attention to the points of view presented in the texts so that you can answer questions and prepare a written response. So it kind of tells you what you're going to be answering multiple choice and writing about. So always use those helpful hints and know what you're looking at. And of course, you could have always looked at the writing prompt ahead of time as well. So as you go through, think about which one of the, or which, based on each of these claims. So it says, you know, that the author does this particular technique. Which texts do that? And if you're not sure, go back and look. There's no harm in going back to look and just double check your answers. But remember, you're looking to explain how the author develops their ideas. They already tell you how the authors are developing their ideas. You just have to figure out which text does which one. And of course, it does tell you that some options or some texts may actually do, or some of these techniques may be used by both articles. Sorry, I'm struggling to talk today, guys. Just don't mind me. Notice this last text is a little bit lengthier, which means you're going to have to pay extra attention. Make sure you take notes as you go. Just to be sure that you're, making sure you know all parts of the text and you're able to answer questions on all parts. So part 6, or 6 part A, sorry, What can the reader infer from the figure of speech, a drop in the bucket, as it is used in paragraph 14 of the passage? From what right do muralists have to the buildings they paint on? So again, this would be another way to use that verb technique, get some of those knocked out, and also refer back to the text so you know that you're going to be looking in paragraph 14 and you know you're supposed to take something from that as the reader. That you're supposed to get some message from this figure of speech, this way of this phrase, because obviously it's not literally a drop in a bucket. Good morning, yes. So for part B, of course, you're going to be looking at what evidence in paragraph 14 best supports that answer. So not only answer the question, but you should also look for evidence to support it. And of course, it does ask you where to look for that evidence. So make sure, again, that your evidence supports your answer choice that you have picked. For 7, it says, what is the purpose of the passage? From what right do muralists have to the buildings they paint on? So again, once again, those verb techniques are going to be very useful to knock some stuff out before you even start reading the full answer choices. And then the next one, instead of asking for evidence, it asks you to think about what strategy is used. So which strategy does the author use to best support the purpose? So this is when you want to start thinking about what techniques the author is using and go back to each of these paragraphs and check, is that technique being used in that paragraph? Does it support my answer choice from part A? Question 8, on the other hand, is a little bit different. You are making a summary. So this one typically is the hardest one for the students in class to do. So make sure that you're taking your time with this. Make sure you refer back to the text and you are looking for those different, what happened first, what happened second, and knock out some answer choices because clearly you won't need all 6 of these since you only need to answer with 4. So keep that in mind. Finally, looking at the writing prompts. Just wanted to review the writing prompts with you guys. So it says, for this particular set, it says you have read 2 passages about street art and some of the artists who create it. Think about the claims that authors make about street art and the evidence they use to support their claims. Write a response that identifies the claims made by the authors of the 3 texts. Then evaluate whether each claim is supported with enough evidence to be convincing to the reader. Be sure to use textual evidence for all 3 texts to support your response. So the first thing you would have to do, obviously, is create some kind of thesis statement that talks about what the point of views of these articles are typically referring to, or what they're talking about. Then you need to start thinking about your 3 body paragraphs. Because there's 3 texts, it would be simplest for you to, mark it out into 3 separate body paragraphs. So your points in your body paragraph should talk about what the point of view of that particular article is, what type of evidence they use, and then when you start analyzing or explaining how that point is, effective or not, you can start thinking about, so is this particular article persuasive? If so, why or why not? How is the evidence connected to those ideas? And the same thing for the other 2 for the other 2 body paragraphs, and then have some quick conclusion for yourself. I'm going to go over also a literary analysis style prompt. So this one says, think about the power of music in the passages from The Heart is a Lonely Hunter and the poem Barbershop Quartet, East Village Grill. Write a response analyzing how the story and the poem show the ways that art can affect individuals. Use details from both the story and the poem to support your ideas. So in this particular case, first you would have to obviously write some kind of thesis statement talking about how these 2 are connected, how they are talking about art and its impact on individuals. Then maybe this is going to be a good opportunity to have 2 body paragraphs focus on 2 or 3 different techniques. You could also, for each body paragraph, you could talk about how they use that particular technique. You could talk about each of the stories, the story and the poem in a different paragraph. You could also have kind of like a compare or contrast between the 2, but either way, there's a couple different ways you can kind of organize these. Have a quick little conclusion for yourself, and make sure you're using evidence if that's what it asks for. And then finally, if we're looking at a narrative prompt, the narrative prompt with, in this particular example says, Think about what you have learned about the characters of George Willard and Tom Little in the excerpt from Winsburg, Ohio. Write a narrative describing a conversation that George and Tom might have during George's train journey to the city. Use details from the story to support your answer. Write your response in the box below or in the next pages. So in this particular case, if you're looking at these two characters, first of all, you're not being told specifically what point of view to be from. So you could probably be third person and get away with that and be just fine. You could also pick to be a particular new character that you invent. But just let us know who you're supposed to be. Make sure that you're identifying who is speaking, whether it's a third person narrator, first person, whatever. Make sure you have the characters George and Tom in there, because it specifically says that they need to be having some kind of conversation, which means you should have dialogue somewhere in this particular situation. You should let us know that you're somewhere on this train journey to the city, and then you should have an idea of what they should talk about based on the excerpt given from the actual story. So when you put that stuff together, just make sure that you're paying attention to what the prompt actually asked for, and make sure that you're getting as many points as you can just based on what it's being asked, or what it's asking you to do. So I will post all this stuff in case you guys want to look at it and go through it with me, or if you want to practice. Let me know. Like I said, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But this is just a quick review. Use those strategies, guys. Try your best to get the most out of this test that you can. Remember, it is 15% of your final grade in this class. Also, you do need it to graduate, so you must at least pass the test to be successful and successfully graduate high school. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Remember, if you are scheduled for my first block, you should be here about 7:20. And if you are here for my third block, you should be here around the time I posted. I want to say it's like 11:30. So you should be here about 11:30 to make sure you're taking your test on time. And that'll be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, May 10th, 11th, and 12th. All right, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.